slightly modified version of this presentation was also made to Karvi board yesterday. There was a board meeting. So I thought, the same, that plus some changes related to us, related to market, related to advice and all, I can make in that, and we can see what's happening in the market. So that was the idea. So I'll start. Before we go into what has happened post budget and all that, we will of course look at some historical numbers. Just give me, yeah. Yes, let's start. So Nifty Sensex, this number you never is at 15,000. I was making presentation, it moved on to 15,100. Case with now this picture on the right I've chosen, it obviously shows a surprise expression, but probably with a little bit of shock or disappointment or unhappiness or unpleasant. Why is because I'm sure all of you know it better that not a lot of people have been able to participate in this rally as much as they would have liked to participate, or as much as we would have liked our clients to participate, because all of us, including fund managers like myself, somewhere our advice, somewhere investors were in doubt. And with every rise, in fact, in our discussions, even I have been saying that the trading part of the portfolio can be liquidated at the rise. And that's the reason, and actually that's how market behaves, that it gives us, it goes completely against the expected or against the consensus move. And that's what has happened. The market has continued to move up. People either withdrew some or more than some of their exposure to equity. Some of them stopped SIPs. Some of them stopped putting in more money, and multiple combinations wherein they have been exiting at the rise, thinking that maybe the top has come, maybe overvaluation has happened. But as we can see, market has continued to move up. So that has been the surprise. On the next chart, we have this slide of last year's calendar year 2020 market movement. So I've kind of tried to break it into 5 phases, and I have named each of the phases of the market that were there. In the early February, March, we had a sudden fall in the market. So we saw from 19th February was the peak, and from there 23rd March, within a span of hardly a month, the market fell 50%, which was of course because the news flow had suddenly started with a very high pace in terms of impacts of corona and the lockdown and things like that. But more important surprise was the one which followed up, continues to remain till there. So there was an unexpected initial rally that subsequently happened in the month of April, May, June. And if some of you recall, there were a lot of charts and studies and analysis moving around at that point of time of every previous fall, which used to be followed by a recovery and then used to be followed by a sharp fall again. So that was the mindset that was there. Everybody was thinking that, like all the past crises, like all the past fall, this recovery of April, May, June will be followed by another sharp fall. But that never happened. And that unexpected then moved to and we probably thought that it's a liquidity. The FII inflows started coming in October, November very sharply, and that's what is the market going up. Only now we know towards the last phase that the market has been actually backed by the economic recovery, and that is visible in so much of the corporate numbers, so much of the macroeconomic numbers, which I will talk about in my following slides. Yeah, this is a slide number 4. We can skip it. Just adds the calendar year 2020 movement, adds January and February movement, which we'll analyze in more detail. So this slide 5 is a market performance of calendar year 2020. We all know Nifty moved up and Sensex around 15%, mid cap and small cap outperformed. More important is the next slide, slide number 6. Now, this has not only the 2020 12 months, it also adds about another 35 days of January and February to the last year's movement. In fact, this is as on 4th Feb. If I add yesterday's, these numbers would further go up. But we can see that the large cap Nifty and Sensex movement suddenly moved up from 15% gain to 22% gain. And same was the case with mid and small caps gain, going up from 25 to 35 and 25 to 38 in case of small caps. So that has been the sharp movement that has continued in the 1.25 month or 1 month 10 days or that have passed since the calendar year got over. Next slide, slide 7 is the some of the sectoral indices, and that again we can see Nifty first row. We of course talked about it, 15% moving to 22. More importantly, Nifty Bank, which was initially underperforming, has now in the last 1.5 month or 2 months sharply participated in the market rally, so that -2% performance has now converted to almost 10% positive. Auto sector has again participated very sharply because of the continuous auto growth that we have been seeing, and we discussed in some of our morning calls that initially we thought it was pent up demand, then we thought it was festival demand, but the way auto growth numbers have continued in December and in January, it has really been a surprise for everybody, and that's why we see the auto stocks have moved up sharply. Financial services, again, like banks, have finally participated. FMCG obviously is a low beta defensive sector, and it has not participated, and that is what it should do. In a rising market, low beta and defensives like pharma, like FMCG won't participate, should not participate. If they become from low beta to high beta, that is a cause of worry, because then the portfolio construction becomes difficult. Nifty IT, of course, is a low beta, but still participated, backed by the sharp improvement in the results that was seen in the December quarter numbers for the sector. Metals is another sector that participated. Pharma, just like FMCG, didn't participate in the rally in the last 2 months. So that has remained flat. That 60% actually, because of non-participation, as in percent terms, has gone down to 58. Other surprise recovery has been in the whole public sector space. So PSU banks from -30 to are only -12, and non-banking central public companies from -15 to -11. We will talk about these. So these have obviously happened, one, because of the relative attractiveness of the valuation, because of the sudden statements by public sector ministry secretary, and then of course we saw a lot of changes in the budget. For the first time, government has been open about talking the P word, the privatization. Till now, it was always stake sale, divestment, disinvestment, marginal stake sale, QIP, offer for sale, follow-on sale, and things like that. First time in the budget, government has very clearly said that we'll privatize bank insurance, general insurance companies. So as I showed in my earlier slide, that all of us think, talk, and feel that the whole rally is liquidity driven, because the FIIs have put in the money, has been coming in, and the market is going up. But is that really so? Has it been liquidity driven? Was it liquidity driven? So one of the things that happens in the market is, I've taken an analogy that if water spills at our home, on the floor, in office, yesterday on the table, coincidentally I was with Abhijit yesterday in his room, and water spilled on his table, and that's where I got this example from. So water flows to the lowest level, it's obvious. Same way, money doesn't have any family and friends. Money doesn't have emotion. It flows towards return. It flows wherever it sees return, and hopefully maximum return. Of course, the difference is in the investment expectation of investment horizon. For some people, it is 3-6 months to 1 year. For some people, it is 3 years. Some people take a really long-term bet of 5 to 10 years. But yes, if part of the reason for the market to go up was liquidity, was money coming in, money wasn't coming in just like that. Money was coming in because money saw the return. The smart money, whatever we call it market, we call it FII, we call it global money, we call it smart money, moves into any country, any geography, any asset class, any company, only if it sees returns. Of course, in the short term, things can go wrong. And we will see in some of the numbers why I'm saying that, where was the return visible and why was the return visible. So that's an additional reason for the market to go up. It's not purely liquidity driven, is what the point I'm trying to drive. So slide 10, as I said, now we know that the fundamentals economic recovery has contributed to the market rise, as can be seen in multiple economic factors and numbers that I'll talk about. Of course, it is liquidity driven in the short term, but as I said, the liquidity comes in only if it sees return. So slide 11 is a very important slide. Here we see the corporate results that have come in for this quarter, December 2020. We can very clearly see that while the sales growth has been flattish at 2.2% in December 31, 2020 quarter, the profit has sharply gone up by 75%. That's a huge number. In fact, in the year before also sales was flat, but profit went up. But that was more the reason because that quarter, that year, government had reduced corporate tax from 30% to 22% or something like that. But this year, that impact is not there. This year, the impact is of the performance, operating leverage, reduced cost. Of course, some benefit came in from reduced commodity prices, and little bit of benefit came in the fall in the interest rates. So that's one factor to look at, that why money came into India, why market moved up. It is liquidity, but liquidity comes in, as I said, for the reasons that it sees. And also, let me also tell you that the smart money is able to see these numbers or these changes or the economic recovery or the economic downfall also much in advance compared to when the actual numbers come out, or compared to the people like us who are only able to see it when we see the actual numbers. Now, there's no definition of smart money, whatever you call it. If at all I were to put a timeline, there's no timeline, but at least 6 months in advance is when smart money is able to see the changes that are likely to happen in economy, likely to happen in corporate performance and things like that. And that's where we saw that the money started to come in for last quite a number of months, and we are only getting convinced of the results now also, that too with a doubt. We still say that there's a lot of pent up demand. In fact, that was a point raised in yesterday's board meeting also. We still say that whether it was a festival demand which will sustain or not, maybe it won't sustain. Obviously, with the high growth of 25-30% that is happening, it won't sustain at the same rate. But at least we are back in the business. Moving on, some other macroeconomic numbers besides the corporate profitability. So we, of course, have these institutional flows, and we know, especially the last three bar charts, October, November, December, the kind of inflow we saw from FIIs. Of course, parallelly, we saw some selling from institutions and domestic funds, not because they were net redemption. There were, of course, some redemption, but at the same time, they are continuing to see SIP inflows, which have remained largely steady. I'm sure all of you track those numbers.
Can the slide, please? The next slide, please.
Slide 13.
Yeah.
So that's where we saw the last 3 months FIIs coming in. Parallelly, domestic institutions and mutual funds sold, as I said, not because they were net redemption. While there were some redemptions, SIP inflows continued to come in more because mutual funds probably took a profit call somewhere. Moving on, slide number 14. So that's just an extension. I have also added the January 21 numbers of FII here. And we can see that even in January, FII numbers have continued to remain positive. Even in the February till date, they have been positive numbers after the budget and after the credit policy. Numbers to the December, October, November, December numbers. And we can see that January also FII inflow has been positive. In fact, in February also till date, it has been positive. Moving on, slide 15, and that is the critical slide. Now let's forget the earlier years. Let's look at the last set of bar chart, which is CY 2020, calendar year 2020. Now here we can clearly see that the inflow of foreign money is positive only in India, not in any other country like Indonesia, Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia. Now that's what I meant when I said that liquidity doesn't have any friends or family. It goes where it sees return. So if the logic was, which of course is partly true, that no, globally money is available too much, all the central banks have reduced interest rates, RBI is also operating on lower interest rates, governments have been supporting, so a lot of money is available. Despite being available, as we can see in this chart, the money did not go to these countries, probably because the money did not see as much of economic recovery or as much of financial performance improvement in these countries as it saw in India. So that kind of corroborates the fact that liquidity is not the only reason. Of course, it's part reason. Also, at the same time, liquidity goes in where it sees return. So if liquidity coming in, we can reasonably assume that yes, the money is seeing something. As I said, of course, there can be difference of the return investment horizon expectation. That money probably could be coming in for 3, 5, 10 years, whereas our patience could only be 1 year. So that difference could be there, but money will come in only if it sees return in any particular country. Moving on, next slide, slide number 16. So this is index of industrial production. We will move with some of these slides very quickly, continuing with the theory that economic recovery we have been seeing. So last few months it has become flattish, but still we saw sharp recovery from the lows of April, May, June. Slide 17, same composition like IIP, PMI, Purchasing Managers Index. Again, reflecting economic recovery, we can see has been sharply going up. Slide 18, India's exports saw very sharp recovery from the lows of April, May, June, have flattened out now. In fact, October, November, December, 3 months were of a marginal to negative growth, but January again the growth has turned positive. That number is not here because it came after the presentation was prepared. January we have seen 5.5% positive growth again in exports. Slide 19, again, just like exports, imports also grew initially very fast, then became flat for a few months, and now again have started to see some marginal recovery, reflecting the overall increased economic activity. Slide 20, automobile sales. I talked about it earlier also. We saw such a sharp recovery, which was completely unbelievable, not only by people like us on the street, even by the automobile manufacturing companies. They were also not sure that they will see this kind of recovery, why that recovery has come in, whether it will sustain and things like that. And slide 21, within automobile, tractors recovery has been really sharp. So there also we can see both production and sales. Of course, if sales go up, production has to keep going up to support the sales. Has seen recovery again. In this, January numbers are not there. January has again reported 50% growth in tractor sales for the two largest players, Mahindra and Mahindra, and Escorts, and similarly for other smaller players also. So that's the kind of recovery that we have seen in the automobile, which of course we can extrapolate to say that it's reflecting a part of the overall economic recovery. There have been some numbers which are mixed, as I said, export import have been mixed, but on a net basis, almost all the a lot of data that I have not put here, like UPI transactions, like petrol and diesel consumption, like power consumption, continuous growth is being observed in all those numbers. Slide 22, this is inflation after turning negative in the few months of peak of the corona, obviously because there was no demand, no supply, it started to move up. And we will talk about it. That is a risk that we run now, and we have to be careful about it. Slide 23 is CPI. So earlier was wholesale price inflation. This is consumer level price inflation. That has also started to move up till December. Now in January, it has come down a little bit. So that's a positive sign, but that's a risk. We will talk about it in more detail. Slide 24, I think this we talked about it earlier, but despite all the negatives in the 2020, Indian companies were able to raise record amount of money through the bond sales. So there were a lot of equity issuances, a lot of successful IPOs we saw getting oversubscribed multiple times. At the same time, bond issuances also continued. So this reflects two, three things. One, the availability of money is not an issue in India, in Indian market with Indian investors, corporates, individuals. Whenever they see a good opportunity of investing in bonds, of investing in equities, they do. The other thing it reflects is that despite all the pessimistic scenario, the economic activity was going on. Companies needed money to invest in the business or to keep their purses ready for the future investments. And that's where they continue to raise money. Slide 25, move on 26. So now this is an often repeated discussion, that is market overvalued, is it undervalued, is it rightly valued? Unfortunately, there is no right answer. So if we look at last year FY20, the EPS for the Nifty was 573, which this year, now we are in February, March, we will end the year, financial year 21. The expectation are that some people say that because of the sharp degrowth that happened in the June quarter and little bit in September quarter also, on a net basis, we will degrow. So the EPS may fall from 573 to 500 to 550 to 560. Some people are saying that no, with the kind of sharp positive growth of 25-30% that we have seen in December and likely to see in March, we might end the year with a surprise of positive growth despite all the negativity. So that can marginally take the EPS higher than the last year at 600. And the important thing is market always looks at forward. So the EPS for FY21 is kind of more or less known because we have December numbers. In some sectors, January, like automobile numbers are known. Some other numbers are also known. Insurance numbers came in yesterday just because we are a distributor in insurance. For the life insurance numbers, the APE, annualized premium equivalent, has grown up in the month of January for almost all the companies. So HDFC Life has seen the numbers. I don't remember. I can check and tell you. SBI Life has seen the growth numbers positive. Bajaj Allianz has seen very positive growth number. Max has seen very positive growth numbers. Only ICICI Pru has seen negative growth numbers. So that's the kind of growth. So if we are not participating in the insurance products, we should, because market is growing. If we don't participate, our market share will keep coming down. Anyway, coming back here, so the next year I've built in FY22 700 rupees EPS at 16.7% growth. Although again, market is expecting growth could be much higher, and that is where at 15,000 Nifty, if we see, it is currently valued at 21 times. And if we further take 10% growth in FY23, again, market thinks that the growth could be much higher. Then the PE falls to 19.5, which is the average that the Nifty has been trading at. And if we take that as an statement, then on a 23 basis, we can say that market is not overvalued. Of course, as I said, these discussions are never ending. Moving on, slide 27. So we did the budget session, but just to kind of summarize, we obviously saw focus from the government on job creation, infrastructure investments, health expenditure, agricultural focus, and more importantly, simplification of laws, processes, taxation rates, arbitrage removal, customs duty, how FIIs will be taxed. There were a lot of questions and confusions earlier. Government has tried to clear them and simplify them as much as possible. 29 RBI credit policy, we just saw it day before yesterday or so. Sabya has already summarized. We clearly saw the rate hike not happening, which was expected and likely to continue for some more times. In fact, RBI said that we will continue with our accommodative stance. What at the same time it did is to bring a sense of normalcy back in the market. It has increased the CRR, the amount of money that banks are supposed to keep, from 3% to 3.5% from March 27th, and back to 4%, which was the pre-corona rate from May. So to that extent, RBI has tried to take out some liquidity from the market, and that's why immediately on the credit policy day and the day after, we saw the interest rates going up, although they have cooled again now. RBI is going in for bond auction and things like that. Another important announcement was that individuals will be allowed to open GSEC account. So that's something, and yesterday we were discussing in board meeting, and Abhijit, so maybe somebody will reach out to you. The plan is to see how we together as manufacturer and distributor design some product or a strategy to benefit our investors and of course make some money for all of us. So keep in mind, all of you, that keep thinking of some suggestions, discuss internally amongst all of you, and let's try and prepare something. RBI has predicted GDP growth rate in FY22 at 10.5%, which is quite significant. Now, I am not a debt market expert, but by talking to other people in the debt market, the understanding I have is that over the next few months, yields are likely to move up because RBI, as I said, is trying to move towards normalization. CRR hike in phases could be one reason for that. So that is something that, if also you all also get similar feedback from some other debt fund managers or some other AMCs whose debt funds we are distributing, then accordingly you all can decide what strategy change to be done in which debt funds. So obviously fields are likely to move up. The simpler strategies to move or to continue to invest in overnight funds, liquid fund and money market funds, and probably not to invest in medium term and long term funds. As I said, please take more consultation and feedback from others. I am not a debt market practitioner. I am more of an equity market practitioner. But this is broadly the summary of the RBI credit policy, the developments that have happened and that are likely to happen going forward. So I think I'll move towards the closure quickly, last one or two slides anyway, so that we leave more time for interaction. High activity events now going forward. One, of course, there'll be a lot of IPOs. So unfortunately, we don't make money by IPOs distribution or things like that. But that's activity that will continue. So that how indirectly it will help us is a lot of IPOs coming in, listing at a premium will keep the interest alive in the equity market. And we can see the extent of money that is available. I think last week, Indigo Paints IPO closed with 100 times oversubscription. Now, that's what I was saying earlier also, that that's the kind of money that is available in India. Money is not at a short supply. What is at a short supply? Sometimes confidence of people get shaken up. Sometimes there is no clarity in what asset class to invest in. Sometimes there is no clarity on valuation. And that is where our role comes in. In fact, what I very strongly feel and say is that when we get an investor into equity, or when he's looking to invest in equity, he also knows equity is a risky asset class. The only thing he is looking for is that somebody to give him comfort. Put a hand on his shoulder or on his back, sir, we are there, you don't worry. market will move up. If it comes down, he will probably kind of say a few things to us, but in the heart of his heart, he knows that equity is a risky asset class. So we just have to give him that confidence and continue to make him invest. Of course, because of the budget and so many other things, public sector disinvestment will be a very high focus area. And as I said earlier, government has already made it clear that management control and stake sale and privatization will be the way to move forward. It's not only the stake sale. Moving on, slide 34. So likely outperformers, we discussed this earlier also, will be whole space of IT, online, digital companies. Another outperforming space will be the banking and insurance companies. Insurance FDI, we discussed in the budget discussion, has been hiked from 49 to 74. Select infra, select textiles, and gas utilities. So these are some of the sectors. There will be other sectors as well, but these are the sectors that we thought will be more outperforming than some others. Slide 36, the potential risk. That's the most important thing. So I always say that the risks don't die in the market or in the economy or in our lives at any point of time. What happens is whenever there is a positivity, we tend to forget risks. And whenever there is a negativity, we tend to be more conscious about risks. The biggest risk is saying that there is no risk, that okay, oh, we are at 15,100 Nifty, 51,000 Sensex, government has given a very excellent budget, economy is growing, FII is putting in money, so where is the risk? There's no risk. No. If at any point of time we assume there is no risk, that is the biggest risk, because that is a complete wrong assessment. Risks never die. Risks only change their shape and size. So what are the risks despite all the positivity at this point of time? Resurgence of COVID, of course, that possibility is dying by the day. Hopefully shouldn't happen, but still. Vaccine failure, again, doesn't look like, but that who knows what medium-term impact of vaccine as a side effect can come in 3 months or 6 months. Nobody knows as of now. Oil price rise, in fact, that has already started to work out in the last about, let's say, 2 months or so. We have seen Brent crude moving up from $50 to $60. Other commodities also. FII withdrawal. So we were talking of liquidity. As I said, that liquidity comes in only if it sees return. But at the same time, yes, a very sharp flow of money, inflow as well as outflow, does drive the asset class prices. So in a very short period of time, if we see the lot of money coming in, market will move up sharply, and vice versa. So if for whatever X reasons, their view turning negative, or their own countries needing money, or they finding any other asset class or country more attractive because our valuations have gone up, if they withdraw a high amount of money in a short period of time, we could see market correction. Non-achievement of budgeted expenditure, because government has budgeted a lot of things, even for the remaining 15 days of the current financial year and for the next financial year. If that doesn't happen, we could see the risk there. And inflation, I talked about it earlier, because of the interest rates going, because of the customs duty getting increased, because of the so much of easy money available, the immediate impact historically that has been seen comes by way of increased inflation. And that's why RBI is trying to already normalize the situation, first by increasing the CRR. Maybe over a period of time, it will take some other steps. So what should be our strategy? What are the monitorables? Now these 4 points are linked to each other. Let's start from the bottommost circle, demand sustenance. So demand has to sustain, whatever could be the reason. If that doesn't sustain, then we'll be back in a period of flat growth and degrowth and negative growth, but that has to sustain. Likely to sustain not at 25-30% growth rate that we have seen, but certainly at around 10-12%. If that happens, then earnings growth will keep coming in. On the other hand, as I said, if policy tightening happens, if interest rates start moving up, that is something that is to be monitored. And all these three things will have an impact on valuation. If demand continues, earnings growth keep coming in, money will keep coming in, stock prices will keep going up. So of course, earnings go up, the PE ratio remains same. But it could be that earnings go up lesser, money comes in much more, share prices rise disproportionately. So valuation tends to go beyond average on the upper side. And in the other situation, it can come below average. So these are the some things that we'll have to monitor. As I said, more importantly, the interest rate movement, the policy tightening by the central bank, and sustenance of demand. I think that's where my presentation also ends. So this is another last slide. Think of equity as your third child. Now, I'm not sure if some of you have seen this, if seen, very good. If not, see this and act as a reminder, and I'll read it out so that it gets into all of our minds. Most families have two children. Now, of course, we are moving towards one children. I have two, of course. We spend a lot of money over 25-year period in educating our children, providing for their needs, marrying them off, in short, getting them well settled in life. Now, this is a statement from somebody who says, I tell my client to think of equity as their third child. Just like we invest in two children, invest some money every year or whenever you can into equity, as thinking of that as a third child, and continue to do that for 25 years. After 25 years, whether your real children look after you or not, which they won't with the times that are coming in, your third child will certainly look after you very well for the rest of your life. Thank you, and we can have questions.
I've got a couple of questions. So, Mani, I obviously, let me reiterate some of the facts that you mentioned. And so, money obviously flows to where it sees opportunity. We have realized that there is an improving macro scenario. And obviously, the earnings have proven in the last quarter that it is in a coming into a positive territory. And obviously the decrease in the operational cost that you mentioned post the COVID scenario was very, very important for everyone to take it as a last slide risk that. So when again like that is coming up, maybe COVID will go away, new risk will come in. So from there, I think the oil prices, the Brent, if you look into, has moved to almost $60 and above. So what's your take on that? Like the commodity prices are increasing, dollar index moving down. So how will it affect inflation, and will then we get a dip, sudden dip, and how will it affect the currency also?
So a few things will happen, likely to happen. One, of course, given the fact that a lot of alternate energy sources have become available. And as we know, not only in India, world over, have been trying to look for multiple energy. So renewable has come in focus last 7-8 years very aggressively, which is mainly solar. Then towards automobile, in India, we yet do not have vehicle penetration, but globally that has been going up. So what happens is that one, the demand growth that was there, oil also gets governed by the production increase or decrease that the OPEC oil and petroleum. As a result, the oil price won't go beyond a certain X level, which in my view is $65 odd or so. So that's one thing. So to that extent, it's not that big a risk. Coming back, still if it keeps moving up, as I said, the alternative sources of energy have been going up. In India, we have aggressively invested in hydro and things like that. On automobile, government wanted to go very aggressively. Unfortunately, much over the last 3 years for various reasons. So that is where the concern will continue. Work from home and things like that. Earlier, the vehicles were not moving as much and demand had fallen sharply. Still, if oil price keeps going up and other commodities have also been moving up, so we have seen steel prices going up, we have seen other non-ferrous metals like copper, like aluminium, like zinc moving up, they are obviously likely to have an impact. While two-wheelers, four-wheelers, cars, refrigerators, washing machines, everything has some component of metals, ferrous as well as non-ferrous. Result, their margins are likely to come down. And that's why I said that the 75% growth in profitability that we saw in December will not sustain. Of course, what companies have done is that they have already started to take price hike to cover for the part of the raw material price rise. And as a result, if they did not increase the price, let's say their margin would have dropped from 10% to 7% because the raw material went up. Now they have taken a price hike which may not cover full 3%, but will certainly cover 1.5%. So part of it they will take as a hit on their margin, part of it they'll pass on to consumer. Now that is where the balancing is done by the industry. They don't want to increase prices to cover the full increased cost, because then there is a risk that demand may fall off. If price rise happens too much, some consumers who are marginal buyers who have just barely thought of being able to afford a motorcycle. Even if the price goes up marginally, it might fall off their budget, so they will withdraw. So that's a balance that industry will try to contain. But still, and that's why we discussed it as a risk, that if all these things keep moving up, then we will have a scenario of price rise increasing too much. Government also increase customs duty in the budget, although for very limited number of products, but that will increase the import cost of these products. So added all these, we might have inflation going up, and that is where RBI will again start to come in. Interest rates will go up, and that's how the economic cycles get built up over 3, 4, 5 years. So I think right now we are at the start of an economic recovery cycle. It won't die that soon, but yes, ultimately all these things will turn back into a vicious cycle from the current virtuous cycle that we are in, and we have to live with that.
I think we generally always feel left out whenever there is a rally. So I have got one question. I saw your slide; it has focused on infra, agri, and all. But what about real estate? Can we take part on this and be at the beginning of the cycle and invest? And what about for our clients? Can they just
Yeah,
take part in the real estate?
yeah, sure. So no specific reason for me not to put real estate there. Has started to do well, I think now, let's say almost for 5 months now, and is expected that actually the residential part of the real estate will continue to do well. uh, the difference comes that the listed companies that are there in real estate in India are only for the premium end market of the property, mainly metro cities, at least above 50 lakhs to 5 crore kind of properties. The government focus has been below 50 lakh rupees of the property. The Prime Minister Awas Yojana and things like that focus on the lower end of the housing. So real estate companies do not address that. But yes, because of the real estate demand going up, if there are some products which are available, or if there are some properties that clients want to invest in the real estate, I think the rates haven't moved up so much to not remain attractive anymore. If we are taking a view of 2 to 3 years, probably real estate investment is a good investment now.
I think that's from my end. I think let's open the floor for questions. So if you have got any question, please put it on the chat or you can ask directly. Hi, if you have got any question, you could put it on the chat and or ask directly, please.
Kunja, quick question on sectors only, just from where Sabya left. You also not put auto there, autocom. I understand that there is a lot of waiting period now for cars, and they are falling short of a lot of components. Any views on that?
Yeah, so it is positive view. In fact, in my sectoral chart, I think slide 6 or 7 that I showed, I clearly showed that how in the last 1.5 months, after rise and this full of 2020, the auto sector has moved up very sharply. So it's a question of which sectors we take on priority, because this sharp price rise that has happened in last 1.5 months. I've shown those sectors as outperformers in terms of our investment opportunity. So I have to see whether from the current level of increased prices, whether the sector will be an outperformer or not. And if yes, I've chosen 5 sectors, it could be at number 6. But overall positive view. In fact, the same question CP had also asked me yesterday. But yes, overall positive view. It's a question that which are the sectors we have taken in priority.
A question that CNBC might ask you as a trader, long term, any bet on when Sensex will touch 1 lakh?
The rate at which we are going, it might as well touch next year. Who knows? It might as well touch next year. Who knows? With the kind of pace, the percentage rise, the number of days being taken in every 1,000 point rise or a 2,000 point rise for the Sensex is reducing with every rise. So although it should be reversed because the base has been going up, but it's acting reverse. But anyway, I mean, these are all hype. If you go back, a lot of people ask me similar question on Nifty touching 14,000 by December 31. Now, everybody would have liked to prepare their presentations for 2020 with Nifty showing as 14,000. it just went to 13,980 or something like that and came back. On the next day, 1st January, it went up to 14,000, but on 31st December, it did not. So that's how market behaves sometimes. We are also preparing to do another session tomorrow at the same time for the PMS launch, which is now finally ready. I talked about it a few times in our morning sessions or some other sessions. So look forward to that also. Today presentation was slightly longer. I don't know. But tomorrow we'll keep again the presentation part is smaller and have some more discussion. So by then, if you can think of some more questions, clarifications either on this or any other thing, or of course on tomorrow's PMS presentation, we can discuss that. This thing also you can think about a lot. Of course, you can keep discussing within your teams as well and think of it. As I said, the few points that I've tried to cover, my focus and discussion and talk always remains largely equity oriented, because that is where my larger part of focus, practice, experience, I won't say expertise because I don't have that, has been. But at the same time, I've tried to cover other asset classes also. And based on this is what we have to keep designing our own thinking, our own investment advice, our talking points to the investors. And as I said, that valuation slide is a good talking point with the investors. Every investor today has a doubt. Well, valuation. The result slide, the kind of percentage growth it shows, is a very good talking point with the investors. You can keep doubting, but reality is in the numbers. Opinions can be discussed, the facts can't be discussed. Opinions can be disputed, facts can't be disputed, and numbers are always facts. So those are some of the all the other numbers, of course, on the economy of export, import, the PMI, the index of industrial production, all those things are positive points. And the question that investors generally ask, that what if FII withdraw? As I said, the answer is that yes, they can withdraw in the short term, but if they keep seeing the returns, they'll keep coming back. And as far as we are concerned, we very strongly feel that India as an economy, as a country, will keep giving returns because it is one of the highest growing economies. At 10.5% GDP growth predicted by RBI for FY22, India will probably be the highest. I don't know what's the growth rate expectation of China. Till now, we used to be second below China, but we could be at the top.